بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بارك الله فيكم وجزاك الله خير. First of all, appreciate the invite, usually over Zoom, alhamdulillah. We've been going on for a long time, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. And I appreciate your patience with me traveling and sometimes canceling. May Allah forgive me and please forgive me. It's been interesting last 3 years, alhamdulillah. So please forgive me for any shortcoming, any mistake, calling late, not making it. Alhamdulillah, very patient group, mashallah. But alhamdulillah, we finished quite a few books. Alhamdulillah. So we're wrapping up today. It'll be like a general wrap up for the deception of the devil, Ibn Jawzi rahimahullah. And in general, we're going to speak a little bit about some current issues and obviously maybe have some questions. One thing that we notice as we go through the book, it's the recurring theme of the deception of shaitan. And the other day I had a session with some brothers, and before I was in Australia last week, and we kept talking about the same thing. What's the main cause of the problems that we're faced with today? We have to understand the problems first before we can offer solutions. First, we have to understand that there is a disease and there's a cure. And different people said, well, it's modernization. Others said it's feminism. Others said it's social media. Others said it's LGBTQ. Others said it's whatever, the West and the Jews and this and that. And I said, the master CEO of all these problems is shaitan. First and foremost is shaitan. Don't think that shaitan uses sticks and stones. A shaitan is always understanding current issues. He understands what's going on in the world. He's had a lot of experience. Sometimes we get deceived, the deception of shaitan, of Iblis, to think that, well, is he really there? How is he? Western movies give you this portrait of shaitan as exorcism and a nun and all these things, right? And people don't really understand, actually, Iblis is a spirit and was a pious spirit that worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that basically lost his way, grew to arrogance, his kibr. It's not about these images that we get in the media. And a lot of times, because of our attachment to technology, it's hard for us to conceptualize that there's an actual entity that is around us. Actually, all of us have one with us right now. It's called al-Qareen. But we don't really think about it. It's not like you're aware that whether you forgot your wallet or not. Like, let's say you leave the house without a wallet, you're gonna be like, oh my God, where's my wallet? Worst, your phone. If you forget your phone is like the worst thing ever, right? No way. I mean, you might not turn around for your wallet, but for your phone, you're gonna turn around, right? So because there's an awareness that something is there or not there. However, when it comes to this qareen, this shaitan, we're not really aware. And the Prophet ﷺ said, every single one of you has a qareen. They said, Ya Rasulullah, even you? He said, even me. But Allah helped me to actually defeat him, so he only incites me towards good. People be like, oh, what is this? The Christians make fun of this hadith. Oh, look, there's a devil. A devil is not the Christian concept of the devil. A devil, a shaitan, is a jinn or a spirit that has turned bad. Okay, so it's a shaitan. There's also many among them actually who are shaitan or shayateen from the ins. Because Allah says very clearly, min al-jinnati wan-nas. So there's jinn and humans. Both can be shaitan when they're evil, or both can be good when they follow the deen. So they are Muslim jinn. They pray, and we know in Surah Jinn and other surahs in the Quran where inna sami'na Qur'anan ajaba yahdi ila rushd. So they believe. فآمنا. They believe. They're Muslim. They submit. Okay, very clear. We're not allowed to interact. We're not allowed to do this. We're not allowed to do that. I think I've said the story before of my friend who embraced Islam from the jinn, right? Some of the brothers know him, maybe. But he lives here in Malaysia. But once the jinn understood that it's not allowed to communicate with the humans, he himself told the brother that we cannot be together anymore. Actually, it was after Jummah Salah. Other jinn told them that he's not allowed to communicate with this boy. So he came and said, Khalas, I cannot. They changed my name from Nuh to Nuh, and now we have to say goodbyes. It was the jinn who told him, look for the Quran, look into Islam and all that. The brothers are looking and so on. But they're not allowed to communicate. He understood, he learned, and he told us. He was a Muslim, alhamdulillah. So the brother became Muslim from the jinn, because of the jinn, right? Long story. I said it in the class before. He's a, mashallah, good brother. He works with us. He's a great, mashallah, story. And even his brother became Muslim after, and mashallah. But bottom line is, we are kind of not aware of this presence. And this is one of his deception, that we're not on guard. People eat with the left hand. They think it's not a big deal. Eat, okay, but they know that shaitan, man akala bishimali, akana shaitan ma. Whoever eats with the left, shaitan will eat with him. We don't, sometimes you see people, no problem, right? Say Bismillah before you eat. Again, it's like we think it's just become a tradition for us. Entering the bathroom. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal khaba'ith. Sometimes we forget. Exiting, ghufrana. We forget. Waking up. A big one. Alhamdulillahi alladhi ahyana ba'da ma matana wa ilayhi nushur. Okay, go to the bathroom, you make wudu. Prophet said, knots are being untied. Right? When you make wudu, you pray your sunnah, you pray salah, fard. Slowly each knot gets untied. Again, conceptualizing will be like, we need to find some Hollywood movie or some Netflix series to somehow connect the visuals, and then maybe we're like, well, you know. But it is from al-ghaib, the unseen. And, you know, again, this hadith is amazing, but people say, you know, oh, what is this hadith? Prophet said very clearly, the shaitan will urinate in your ear. People are like, oh, what is this? Ha, 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 ha. Right? Well, you're an idiot. Because what did you prove? That it doesn't. How do you prove that it happened? What do you prove it? Well, just the slumber that you wake up in. Everything, all your senses are. No one wakes up and they're like, yeah, let's go. Right? You're kind of like, you know? Right? It takes a bit of time. Almost like there's some knots that are being slowly untied. None of you wake up like that. None of you. Everyone's like, ugh. There's this fog for the first few minutes. And a lot of us need a bit of coffee too, isn't it? To like get up a little bit, right? SubhanAllah. When you look at this thing, people make fun of the deen. They have no reason, no rationale. It's called attempt or appeal to ridicule. Oh, urinate in the ear, right? And like, what did you prove? Nothing. Just because it's from the unseen. How and this and that. Oh, how is the shaitan close to us? How and what? And we cannot see. How are you trying to rationalize something that you cannot see? It's irrational to rationalize it because you cannot see it. Right? But people try to always like take one on top of the believers. Oh, you guys are so uneducated. We philosophers and atheists, and we're so smart. No, you're actually quite not smart because you have no senses to gauge this issue. So how are you making fun of it? Okay? So Bottom line is, Shaitan is always looking for ways to misguide humanity because he has promised it. And a lot of us are unaware, and therefore we lower our guard and we don't take it so seriously. At least we should be aware of his tricks and how he does things, so we can try to fight it as much as possible. And the Prophet ﷺ gave us ways to fight this. And he told us, "Inna kayda shaytani kana da'if." Okay, the plot of the devil is weak. It is weak, and he just kind of whispers. And I would say the waswas of shaitan, coming from a mental health background, the waswas of shaitan is like intrusive thoughts, right? You can really equate it to intrusive thoughts. Sometimes you're like, where these things come from? Like, I'm not like that. Why is this thought coming to my mind? Where is this thing coming from? You know what I mean? It's like, it's out of character for me to think that way. You know yourself. And you're like, oh, wait a second. Sometimes just sitting, just pondering, might be driving, maybe you're about to sleep. All of a sudden, something comes to you. It's like, what's that? Where's that coming from? And it changes the way you feel about yourself even. It might push you towards thinking, oh, maybe I should try this. Maybe I should do that. I'm not like that. I wasn't taught like that. My parents didn't raise me like that. My imam and my community don't do these things. Where's this thing coming from? It's a waswasa. Sadly, some of our ulama today, they say hands off. This is mental health. Go talk to a psychologist. You go to a psychologist, he tells you, man, it's your Islam is the problem. Why are you thinking all these things? Yeah, haram, halal, everything haram, halal. Yani, leave it. Leave your life. Relax. Here's some medicine. Relax. Take some alcohol. Calm down. Chill. Go smoke a bit of weed. Go to the club. Relax. Commit some zina. Honestly, like a lot of my clients come and say, man, I can't go to these people. Because they always tell like, what's wrong with you? The problem is with you that you're feeling this way. And it's your cognitive dissonance. On one side, you have desires, which is true. All of us have desires. It's true. And on the other side, you have your moral, ethical, cultural standards. So your mom and dad taught you this way. You went to madrasa. And now these two are against each other, in contradiction. That contradiction is causing anxiety. I feel this way, but I'm taught another way. Now you're in this anxious state all the time. Anxious. If untreated, it leads to depression. Right? Now you can't sleep, you're waking up, you don't want to pray anymore, you find it hard to pray, hard to focus. You're looking for any kind of escapism, which usually is in the form of movies, TikTok, shorts, things that are high dopamine boost fast, right? Others will go for things that kind of relax you, depressants basically, such as smoking, marijuana, drugs, and so on, just to kind of numb down and forget. So it depends, different reactions, right? But it's that dissonance that's causing. So some of the so-called secular people will say, well, if you eliminate one of the opposing forces, you just go one direction. And you're a human being, and we live in a world of hedonism. It's democracy, it is capitalism, it is hedonism. If you look around, everything is based on what people want. So it is. It's demand supply. We have to understand. We have to understand that the world is a world of demand supply. We are consumers, and this is how humanity is right now. We want something, it will be made for us. It's just, people say it's to facilitate this, to make life easier, to help us. However, not all things are good for us. So a lot of people, ulama, imams will say, hands off, sorry, I can't help you. This is a mental health issue. Please go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist will say, good day, came to me. What are your symptoms? He won't touch you. There will be no basic interaction, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. What are your symptoms? Symptoms are, talk, 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 I feel this, I can't sleep, whatever, I have intrusive thoughts, anxiety, I feel butterflies, I don't want to go to work, I want to stay in my room, I want to watch YouTube, escapism, all these things. Okay, that looks in the manual, statistical manual of diagnosis, looks at what are the prescriptions. It will be Prozac, it will be diazepam, it will be whatever they'll give you, right? And it's like popping it like, you know, there's no tomorrow. I mean, pills are being dismissed and dispensed at a very, very high rate. Here, especially in the West, like England, USA, and you're looking at like middle upper class, many people are on antidepressant. If you don't have a shrink, they call him a shrink, it's ongoing, you have to go there, write the whole psychoanalytical approach where you lie down and you talk about your feelings for an hour. Guy takes notes, you know, the movie type of therapy. Most people, upper and middle upper class, will have a weekly session with this person. Of course, they will be on their prescription. And on top of that, all kinds of escape mechanisms to escape the reality. And Shaitan is pulling them with that. Social media. What is social media? It is, they call them influencers, right? So it's, they influence us. I mean, all of us are influenced. I have, sometimes my head is like, man, you know, you just find yourself, right? And then you find a video that says something funny and oh, stop. Why are you scrolling all the time? Right? You know those videos, right? And you're like, oh man, what the heck am I doing? Right? You're just wasting your time, right? You've seen those videos, right? And I was like, what am I doing? Like really? Because until then you don't realize it. You don't catch yourself. You're just like, tuk, 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 tuk. And you know some Islamic videos and you almost explain it to yourself, yeah, it's Islamic. Wow, it's benefit. And then some non-Islamic comes in, like, oh, okay. And an Islamic one comes and SubhanAllah. And Shaitan is smart. He works with these things. What is it? Influence. They're bites of information that cause changes in you. And that's waswasa. Okay, it's from nas, from people, but no doubt the Shaitan has a hand in there, without a doubt. Don't think that all these things cannot happen through social media, through these movies. And I was talking to one brother who was explaining, he said, look, for example, if someone gives you ayn or hasad, it's from the eye, isn't it? For those who study anything to the science behind light, right? It's based on light and image inversion and so on. And it's basically energy. But that's exactly what the phone is, right? The phone gives light. Your eye sees it. It works on the image. It connected to the brain. It influences, same way you see everything in front of you. So obviously Shaitan, so if it goes one way, you can give hasad this way, it can also come back the other way around. It also has to enter from somewhere. Allahu alim how, but without a doubt, the Shaitan is going to work through these things. So Shaitan is very up to date with the most modern procedures of influence and deception and so on. And if Ibn Jawzi rahimahullah would be alive in our time, I'm very, very sure, Allahu alam, but I'm sure that he would have added these things in his book. Because we see when we went through the book, right, the deception of the Sufis, the deception of this, of the philosophers, we went through so many, like there's so many categories, right? As we went through their book, there's just so many categories. Like he's really ripped every single small category apart, right? The people who this, the people that, dress and food and this. We went into so many details, right? That you find that's like boring or redundant. But he really tried to show people how diversified the deception is. It's not just one way, right? He can deceive you in, oh, I'm going to eat less. Oh, I'm going to eat more. Oh, I'm going to not dress properly. It just messes with you. Some people is nice dress. Some people don't. They want to have ripped breasts to look this way. And shaitan just messes with your intention, right? It's really, really a very devout enemy. One of the sheikhs said that if shaitan would be hired to be a worker, he would be the best worker. He's always on time. He's very persistent. He doesn't give up. Just really, really constantly pushing hard. He will not leave. So, I guess to wrap up this book, I will say there was a book by one of the scholars who went through some of the deviations and the sects in Islam. And he said that in the end, all these people have one thing in common. All these issues have one thing in common, is that shaitan misguided them. And we're in a time where we have to be as realistic as possible. Like, let us not fool ourselves that we are good, or because we're taking some lessons, or we're teaching, or we are doing lectures, the shaitan is somehow not around. Actually, he'll probably be even more interested in us and work harder on us than on the other people. And we have to understand, at least be humble enough to understand that we're not better than others, that we are more responsible even because we are learning, and that shaitan is going to target us, and that it's very easy. It is very foolish for us to be safe in our deen, to think that, okay, I'm safe, I'm a Muslim. I've seen people praying Fajr in the first line and then leaving Islam, having left Islam. That's just the way. It's so sad. Your heart is almost like about to break. When you prayed next to that person, you would walk in the masjid at Fajr, for example, and he's already there in the first line reading Quran, making dua, right? Long story, maybe in a different discussion, but I cannot, specifically this one brother, because I'm the one who gave him Shahada, right? So it's really, and I know other ones, but it's really, really heartbreaking to sometimes see how the shaitan can misguide. And in Canada, for example, one thing that used to stand out with this one brother is that he would ride his bike in the snow to get to Fajr, his mountain bike, and it was like a good 2-3 kilometers from the university to the masjid, about good 2-3 kilometers. And I'll walk in the masjid at Fajr and he's already there praying, making dua, and this and that. And now he is kafir, right? So it's so heartbreaking. It's been a long time now, but it's still, I cannot forget these things. But shaitan has his way. It was slow. It was a slow process. It was doubts. It was attacks. And using the different desires, the different confusions, and slowly, no matter what you would say, no matter what I try to do, just was habit. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that مَن يَهْدِهِ اللَّهُ فَلَا مُضِلَّ لَهُ وَمَن يُضْلِلْ فَلَا هَادِيَ لَهُ, right? Yani, whoever Allah guides, there's no one who can misguide him. Whoever is misguided, no one can guide him. When Allah says, وَاللَّهُ يَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ, Allah guides whom He wills. Wallahi, that's just the way it is. People try to think that, well, what does it mean? Allah guides whom, those who people want. Yeah, Allah guides whom He wills. It's just the way it is. Like, I was talking to one of my Italian friends, converts, right? And he's been Muslim also for like 20 years. We became Muslim maybe like 5 months apart, 4 months apart. Brother Adamo, Allah protect him. And I said, how we're still in Islam? How come? Because we went through so many difficulties, especially first 5-10 years was horrible. Like, he got kicked out of the house. His dad would kick him in the back when he would see him in sujood. He would kick him in the middle of winter outside, and we're like sometimes like, and he like had more trouble than me. Like, he went from like, mashallah, he jumped so many different things, subhanallah. This is the brother maybe I told you about that we were in Medina, and he was Shia at that time, and right? We made, I said, yani, how come Allah will allow yani, Abu Bakr to be buried next to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? He said, oh, subhanallah, right? Because, you know, they don't like Abu Bakr, right? Radiallahu anhu. Anyway, so we're sometimes looking back when we meet and we're like, how Allah, how come we're still Muslim, right? Because see, if we leave Islam, like, no one really cares, man. Our family is going to be like, woohoo, you know? It's not going to be like you know? Our families will be like, yes, finally, right? So literally we said, Ya akhi, it's just Allah guides whom He wills. And Allah yahdi man yasha. Allah guides whom He wills. We don't know. Yani as Isa alayhi salam says at the end of Surah Maryam, right? تعلم ما في نفسي. You know what's in me. ولا أعلم ما في نفسي. I don't know what's in you. Yani you know what, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya Isa, did I tell you to, or people to worship you and your mother? He says, Allah, you know what's in me, and I don't know what's, you know, what you think or what you decide. As I was with them, I tried my best. But when you took me, then you know what they've done, right? Like, you know that I didn't say these things, right? So Allah, yani, He knows what, how, who deserves, who doesn't deserve, what's the criteria. Some people know the criteria is for you to do this. Allah, there's some people, they never wanted Islam. They were gangsters. They were the worst people. You can never think they'll be Muslims. And Allah guided them. You know them. Look at Muta, Napoleon, okay, and many others. Brother Loon, right? Proper gangsters. The worst. Womanizers before, all kinds of things, druggies, whatever you name it. Proper, you know, son. The brother who's here in Malaysia, who's got that bike thing, Vince, or whatever his name is, the Italian guy from Australia. What's his name? Right, Vince, right? Yani, look at his background. Where is he coming from, man? How Allah guides someone like that, right? And then there are someone like John Esposito, who is and more knowledgeable in Islam than maybe all of us here, right? But he's a Catholic, right? He's a Christian. He knows more Arabic and Islam maybe than all of us here. How many books he's written on Islam? And he's not a Muslim. He's proper staunch Catholic. He respects Islam, but he's a Catholic. So Allah, yani, how come? Allah yahdi man yasha. Allah guides whom He will. That's just the way it is. Wallahi, when Allah says, Sadaqallahu al-Azim, you know, it's just the way it is. Yeah. So, to wrap it up, brothers and sisters, all these groups, all these things, all the stuff we went through, in the end, Shaitan misguides people. We have to be always aware. We have to keep praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show us hidayah, because we cannot be guided by our own ways and our own deeds. And the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, even you, yani, you will enter Jannah by the rahmah of Allah. He said, even me, right? Bi rahmatika ya arhamur rahim. With your mercy. You can work as much as you want. That doesn't mean you don't work. You should work. But as much as you work, don't ever be fooled by shaitan. I did this or I did that, right? Always have tawada, always have humbleness, and try your best to, right? Be careful. As Imam Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah says, that it might be that you will enter Jahannam because of a good deed and Jannah because of a sin. How? Because you will boast and think you're good from the good deed. Oh, I did this. Oh, and your whole life you will go off, and this is Riyah. And sometimes a sin, you remember all the time what you've done, and this will cause you to keep repenting and know how bad you are really, and keep you somehow restrained and, you know, always repent and remember that, okay, I'm nothing. And that is going to keep you, inshallah, in check. I'm not saying go sin or don't go do deeds, right? Don't misunderstand. It's just the mindset on how to deal with these two issues, right? we all sin, we all make mistakes, but just remind yourself every time someone praises you. Someone says, mashallah, sister, mashallah, brother, right? Remember who you really are. Only you know, and Allah knows what happens in private. Right? Whenever anyone praises you, always remember, don't let these praises to get too high to your head. And always remember your sins. Ask Allah for forgiveness. You know, when you wake up at night to pray, no one's there to see you. In the masjid, Assalamu alaikum, I read this and that. You know, when you wake up at night in tahajjud, this is you and Allah. That's why that dua is mustajab. Because no one sees you. You're not making any commercial. There's no video, there's no film, there's no live broadcast, there's nothing. It's just you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah says, I respond to the one who calls upon me. Right? Let him also respond to me. So these are the times where we put our head to the floor. We ask Allah for protection, for guidance, to keep the shaitan away from us. Throughout the day, we have so many du'as. Don't let these du'as become just habit. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal khaba'ith. It's like habit. Really feel that you're seeking refuge. Entering the house, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Shouldn't be like, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Like, feel you're actually seeking refuge in Allah. Bad thought comes, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. In salah, don't be shy when you don't have khushu to say, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Okay? Some people, they feel like, oh, if someone's going to see me doing that, they'll think I'm spitting on them or something. Prophet ﷺ said, do this. Okay, you have to seek refuge and blow 3 times. You have a very bad nightmare. You get scared, you wake up. How many people have sleep paralysis? You have nightmares. You wake up in sweat. Sometimes the same dream over and over again. You hear voices, this and that. And most people are just like, whatever. Or they run and tell someone. The Prophet ﷺ said, say, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim again. 3 times. Don't tell your dream to anyone. Okay, do not tell these dreams. Okay, these dreams, if you look at the book of Ibn Sirin, rahimahullah, and others who talk about the dreams and have gathered all the hadith about dreams and about dream interpretation, you will find that, you know, dreams people cannot explain. It's such dreams, even though their psychologists have tried to study it so much, the only thing that they can, it's kind of aligns, right? The Prophet said there's 3 types of dreams. One of them is from shaitan, the one that scares you. Another one is from things that you see or how your brain works. And this is what psychology says usually. Right? There's different theories around dreams, but usually basically say it's how your brain basically gets rid of information or what it sees in the world, sometimes through peripheral view and so on. It goes in the subconscious and so on. This is yani, kind of like, you know, what in line with Islam. And then there's a third type where the Prophet ﷺ said that there will be no more wahi, but towards the end of time, there will be dreams that will come true for righteous people. And this is a form of wahi. Not yani, Quran is not Sharia, but it is things that will, and he said that's how wahi and revelation started in the first place. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ would have true dreams. He said that towards the end of the time, this was what will come. Right? So it's amazing to see that the shaitan tries to get even there. Right? So these du'as and these hadith that we hear about shaitan, let us not just take him like whatever. Like really, when we seek refuge, let it be that we seek refuge indeed from the accursed shaitan. Okay? Every time you say, A'udhu billahi shaitan, when you read Quran, right? You should say, A'udhu billahi shaitan rajim. Why? Well, shaitan can mess with you. You might not understand the verse. You might be like, what does this verse mean? People got confused sometimes reading the Quran. Sometimes you'll be in halaqah, people will be like, I don't agree with this verse. What is this verse? I don't get it. Right? It's because shaitan's messing with you. There's a reason why you should seek refuge when you're reciting the Quran. Sometimes you might make a mistake and change the meaning. Okay? Make, a'udhu billah, the wrong statements. So seek refuge. Before you eat, you should say Bismillah. There's for everything, there's dua, but it's become to us a habit. We just do it, we don't think about it, we don't feel it. Sometimes even when we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever it's just like, that's it, done. Right? It's like, oh, like, when the Prophet used to make dua, it was like his life. You know, it's from the heart. Right? It's just different. There was things, you know, whatever. It's like habit. And shaitan, this is one of the deceptions of shaitan. That even the deen, he's made people take it as a culture or habit. We're not very connected. We do it here and there and so on, but there's no real feeling. And as long as we're not really attached to that, shaitan is going to keep going and keep taking us away and away and away from our deen. Okay? So this is, I would say, the summary of all these chapters that we've gone through, all these different types of categories of people that Ibn Jawzi goes through, rahimahullah. And we take the lesson that don't ever be confident that everything's okay, always be on guard. You have to live, of course. This deen is not hardship, it is easy, yani deen yusra. But at the same time, you have to be on guard and you have to be careful. And we're living in times of difficulties, and you can see around, yani when we're confused about basic issues, and I'm sorry, but people are confused about whether they're man or woman now. Like the basics. Really sad. Imagine the most apparent thing ever. You know, it's like, come on. And now people, and imagine people are believing it. People are actually like, yeah, that makes sense. Because I like the color pink. Maybe I am a woman trapped in a man's body. I should go for surgery and change my body. And that's what Allah says, right? In the verse where it talks about the animals of sacrifice, where it says the shaitan will make people change the creation of Allah. So they cut the ears and change the creation of Allah, right? That gets extended to anything when people try to alter and change the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine what kind of change. And Allah says, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. Man is not like the woman. Very different, no matter what. And I guess to wrap this up, you know, it's so sad what's happening, especially the way they're targeting our sisters. That to be a woman today, it really means only very little in their eyes. Meaning, if I'm a man and I want to do surgeries, put some lipstick on, and throw a dress on, that's what it means to be a woman now. That a person can claim that I am a woman. You need to call me with she, he, she, her, you know, and so on. Because if they would give a woman more value, and they would understand that, no, you can't do that. It's not as easy. You can't just put some lipstick on and get some surgeries done, and all of a sudden you're never going to be a woman. You cannot be a woman. Right? You cannot be a mother. Right? You cannot get pregnant, no matter what they're going to try to do. And you look at it, they're even trying to do that, subhanAllah. They're working on these artificial wombs to attach to people and to show doctors in China working on that now, you know? Yeah, and they're playing. But you see, in the end, cannot. In the end, cannot. No matter how much you do, you see that humanity is actually regressing, going backwards. And now we're dealing with artificial intelligence, new challenge, and many, many other things. So these are all deceptions of shaitan. Right? So extend the chapters of this book. It seemed like we were never finishing it anyway, but now imagine this should not finish till the day of judgment. Right? Always going to be a new chapter and a new category for people to be aware of. Now, yes, brother. Are there any? Okay. No, not from what I am aware of. But that would be something amazing that should be done. I think that there are a little bit of someone's doing some fiqh of social media, for example, which is very important. I think really has to be like the same way we study like Al-Ihya Ulumuddin or something like that, or whatever books. They should write like books of fiqh for current issues and teach them in halaqah, like the way we learn the books of old. You read like Riyadus Salihin, right? It should be like that, like a proper book, and the imam should teach it, dealing with these current issues, right? Artificial intelligence, LGBTQ, deception of, new deceptions and all that. This should be definitely something that I do believe that we're a bit behind when it comes to, we're still talking about like previous centuries, which is okay. It's important to learn the books of the scholars, but we also have to deal with the issues that we're faced today and teach these books and raise awareness about these things. We shouldn't wait 200-300 years to talk about, like, imagine like the year 2300, and they'll be talking about in the year 2023 there was this guy and they had these issues, right? But it's like, be contemporary. When those scholars wrote those books, they were dealing with their current issues. Ibn Jawzi, when he said there's this man in Baghdad, his name is this, and like he's talking about what is happening at that time. Now, okay. You can read, inshallah. Bismillah. Okay. How to advise and teach young children in a more pragmatic way fundamentals of the deen. I think it has to be active learning. And why? It's because the Prophet ﷺ, when you read the seerah, he was always somehow doing something when he was teaching. Like he's going here, he's coming there, he's riding a horse, he's meeting with the Sahaba, right? He's in battle, he's walking with the Sahaba, they're traveling. Not a lot of times will be like Prophet ﷺ gave a big lecture where everyone's sitting like this. In many hadith, you'll find that there's some active process involved, right? Like for the example, the hadith about the love of Allah, right? When that woman was looking for a baby, and it was in battle, basically after battle. And he finds him and suckles him, right? And the Prophet see, do you think Allah or this woman would throw her child in the fire, right? No, Ya Rasulullah. Well, Allah loves, his servant more than this. Do you think Allah would throw you in the fire? Or the hadith writes around those lines. And he, subhanAllah, imagine, of course they understood what he meant. Now, if I teach it from a book today, okay, but it's very different, isn't it? So this is active learning. It's like contextualize. So when we talk about it, for example, I just returned from Australia, and we took the students on a farm. We spent the night there. We made a fire. The kids were preparing the food. They planted trees. We built a chicken coop and all. But everything is related to like, okay, the Prophet did this, the Sahaba did that, this hadith, this is your responsibility, you're part of the ummah. this ayah of the Quran, then they call the adhan, then we lead salah, then we give a reminder. Everything was intertwined with like real life activities, teaching responsibility, teaching bravery, teaching, roles. And we were focusing specifically on boys because they're just very lost these days. They're going to schools, they're getting into fights, they're naughty, they're disobeying their parents, and all kinds of issues. SubhanAllah, in those few days, we had amazing results. And when I asked in the end, just to give feedback, everyone remembers some hadith and ayah connected to one of the activities that we did. And if I were to just sit them in a table with a chair, it's just theoretical. I think for kids, especially, I used to be a teacher. I used to teach grade 1. And I realized that I'm like, I could teach them for like 10 minutes. They could sit in a chair. After that is chaos. Right? It's just, they can't. It's impossible. Right? So I was looking at the other students. It was in Arabia. I was looking at the other teachers, and to keep the boys in check, they used to beat the students, right? Scream and shout. And shout. Park, this and that. Sometimes I would call him up like, bro, I need help because these kids, like, they're climbing on the walls, right? They're beating each other and this and that. And the guy would come with like a stick and just, right? And they would stay for a little bit. 5 minutes later, chaos. So, guess what? If you can't beat them, join them, right? I start teaching in chaos. We'll lock the door. I would jump on the table and like start screaming like sentences and different things, and they would scream after me, and then whoever would like listen for like 5-10 minutes, then we would play like a soccer, would just push all the tables in the classroom and have this ball, and they would love it, scream, the principal's knocking the door, it's locked, and we're like, screaming, right? What's going on in there? And I'm like, we like put the tables back, and we had like a system, like, okay, you put that table, you put that chair, everyone, within like literally like 30 seconds, everything would back. Open the door, principal's looking, these guys are sweaty, and they're all like this. They're all like, literally, they're like, what'd you do, But it was really funny, we had a system. And, they learned that way. But it was exhausting for me, like I was dying. It's so hard to keep up with. That's why I quit. I was like, no way. I became a school principal. I'm like, forget you guys. I'll try to go up, But it's like that. You have to keep them engaged. There's no way these kids are just going to sit in a halaqah and learn. It's boring for them. And literally, when you look at the Sahaba, the way they learn, I'm not saying all the time. I'm not saying that everything is about jumping up and down. But there was some active process. There was something happening. There was some movement. They remembered. And that's how even modern day educational theories, there'll be a connection between the data and something that will trigger a memory. And I think this was a very prophetic way of teaching. And I think we have deviated from that. Yes, there is time for sitting down and listening. Yes, this is where you have to hold yourself. But not every student will be able to. So for example, Imam Shafi rahimahullah, he says that I was one that I didn't go play with the boys. I was sitting in the house and memorizing and going to halaqat. But that's why he's Imam Shafi. Those are those bright stars and those exceptions, yeah? Other people in general are not at that level, but that doesn't mean that they're not, or they cannot learn the deen. They will learn the deen, but at a certain level. And then you have Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmed, Abu Hanifa, and all the Imams, Imam Malik, and so on, the great scholars of Islam, who are the nujum, the stars. And everyone else can be really good. Not everyone's going to sit and just be able to do and memorize, just look at the page and just memorize it, right? Not everyone will be able to do that. But people can learn. I think we're not teaching them correctly. We need to really revamp our practices. We teach based on what's the most probably fastest, and just, gathering people in one place, give them half an hour, 1 hour, maybe a test written or whatever, and that's it, right? we're not really taking time, okay, because, you know, to go for like a hike or go in the mountain or something like that, it takes time, preparation. I don't want to wake up, it's raining, right? And this and that, right? But you learn so much, right? You learn so much. For example, some of our boys got lost today. In the morning, we went for a hike. Where was it? Where is it? Kiminsa. Yes. Right? So we went, beautiful, right? Two boys got lost, right? But we learned a lot about navigation and mapping, and it's great. Like literally, you know, we solely relying on Google. There's no signal, so we had to use the picture and the map and whatever. But lost his keys, but we learn, right? Like there's so much to learn in this active, and of course we're gonna do some. There was some reminder about the greatness of Allah, about creation. All of us felt it, right? And those boys felt it. It's amazing. We recited some ayat of the Quran. We gave some hadith. It's not like we just, yeah, let's do this and that. No, it was really integrated. No. Yeah, homeschooling, the questions about homeschooling, it's getting very popular, but a lot of people are mistaking homeschooling for computer online, sitting on a computer, right? It's not like the same. An online program is not the same as homeschooling. So parents will say, okay, I'm homeschooling my children. Here's a computer. Here's a program. Okay, I'm out. You're staying at home. I'm going to work. Child is 8 hours a day on the computer, right? Da, da, da. Okay, he's going through the program, watching the videos, responding to quizzes. After half an hour, like, I'm bored. All right, YouTube, Instagram, pack, porn sites. Right, so that's, yeah, homeschooling requires a lot of work. It's like parents have to be like actively involved. I think there has to be a community. Let's say we have, you know, 15, 20 children between 5 or 6 families or whatever. For 1 week, like let's say one sister has this knowledge of science, another one does mathematics, you kind of rotate. Then the brothers will take the boys out on the weekend, let's say two days, and they'll have active learning. So there's a community actually involved, not just a computer and just saying it takes time and resources. That's why, again, the easy way is to just send them to school, right? So there's pros and cons, of course, to the system, because in the end, at some point, they're going to have to be in the real world. So they have to have some guided exposure as well. Like some parents really, really protect their children. Their children won't know anything. And then they become 18, then they release them in the world. Then boom, it's chaos. They've never been able to learn and train themselves on what are the issues. So it's difficult. It's a balance, and that's not for everyone. Allah. In certain countries, however, it's changing now. I think in England, for example, they're trying to criminalize it. So if you're not going to go to school, you can be actually arrested. It used to be like this. It used to be in like in certain countries before, if you do not attend school, it's against the law, right? So it seems that England is trying to go back to that system. Allahu alam, what's going to happen with other countries? I think France as well. Like France, especially with the Muslim community, they want to make sure that the Muslims do not homeschool their children. As in, obviously, then they'll maintain their cultures. France is probably the greatest enemy of Islam at the moment, right? In terms of fighting. And subhanAllah, it's very, very strange. Madkhalism. Okay. If you guys don't know, maybe we don't go into it. It's that. What? Okay. So the term madkhalism or madkhali comes from Sheikh Rabia al-Madkhali, who's a Yemeni scholar, right? So that's where the word madkhali comes from. And yeah, it is a branch of Salafism, and they basically try to tell people not to criticize the Muslim rulers, even if they are wrong in many apparent things, right? There's a lot of back and forth between Salafis who are against this and Salafis who are for this. Even within Salafism, there's a lot of differences. Okay, this is Mana Shaitan again, it's a deception of Shaitan. Okay, and I would say whenever we look at different groups, right, especially when labels come out and name callings and stuff, we have to take a step back and understand the issues, right? A lot of people speak out of emotion, right? We should always stick to the argument and try not to go into labels because it makes your argument weaker, right? When you start labeling, you start putting out slogans, right? Then it makes your argument weaker. Always attack the argument, right? The issue. So if I start calling you Wahhabi because you are, more inclined towards the Sunnah, it's like, it's just a label. I keep pushing you. You're Wahhabi, you're extremist, you're this and that. What is it? Or fundamentalist. You're a fundamentalist. Why? Because I stick to the fundamentals of Islam. But it's labels. When people start putting labels, this can cause people to not look into the matter itself and really understand it, right? Versus understanding it. And okay, I don't agree with it, but if I want to do doubt to someone, let's say I'm talking to whatever sect of Islam and whatever difference, my intention should be to try to give them dawah and to bring them to the fold of the Sunnah or to the correct way. If I start naming people and start always saying you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, most likely the person is not going to accept anything I say. This is a very big human flaw that we have. As soon as we have an issue with someone, we start calling names. And you can see there's so many names within the Muslim, there's always some derogatory names that are used towards different variations of people's practices, right? So with the madkhalis, okay, basically, yes, there's an inclination towards the government, and even if they're making mistakes and so on, they will not criticize or take anything to make any changes or anything like that. However, if maybe another Muslim does something wrong, then they will take him out, right? So it's kind of like that. They're called on that double standard, basically. Let's say if the brother would have some idea or something like that, they will cancel him, refute him online, this and that. But if another person would have those ideas that is in power, then that person we cannot, will excuse them. This is kind of what seems to be happening. So a lot of people, of course, are angry with that and don't agree. They call it double standard, and there's a lot of fitna between the brothers when it comes to this. I don't know. May Allah protect us. Wahdatul Wujud, it is the philosophy of Ibn Arabi. We talked about Ibn Arabi and Ibn al-Arabi. Big difference, right? Okay, Ibn Arabi is the Sufi Andalusian scholar, the one in Ertugrul. Okay, you guys saw him? Nice looking with a nice beard. Okay, And Ibn al-Arabi is the author of the book that we studied, right? Defense Against Disaster. He was the great scholar of Islam. So Ibn Arabi, he came up with this idea. It's from the Sufi background. And he said that basically, like Allah is present in everything, basically, right? Even in him, he would say. So it's called Wahd al-Wujud. It's this concept. So many of the scholars made takfir on him. They said this is a kufr, right? To believe that Allah is inside of you, or, and so on. So yet it is a branch of, or part of the Tasawwuf. Not all the Sufis believe in it. Okay, not all the Sufis believe in it. Actually, many did not. Okay, many did not. And even from the Sufi scholars, some of them made takfir on Ibn Arabi. How do I keep motivated when I get confronted with family members and friends? They have serious problems and sadness. Okay, so sometimes because your family has like emotional attachment to you, it's very hard to deal with them. Probably that's one of the hardest person to deal with, someone who's closest to you, who loves you, your mother, your sister, people they have emotional attachments with. Hard to advise them, hard to get advice from them, right? Someone from your family can tell you, come on, do this, 1, 2, 3, and you're like that. And then some stranger will come and tell you the same thing. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's because it's hard for us to really understand that. A lot of the tests came even to the Anbiya. It came from their families. Right? The Prophet ﷺ's tribe were the ones who gave him the hardest trouble. It was very difficult for him because it hurt him so much. Many people passed away at the time of Prophet, and yeah, the Prophet was sad, but not as sad as Abu Talib, for example. Right? And look how much he tried, and it was so painful for him. Why? Because there was an emotional attachment. Right? So if you're seeking for help usually and support, I would say try someone who is a professional in the field, who doesn't have an emotional attachment. Because some people, they'll not tell you, because they love you, because they care for you, they might not be able to objectively advise you. Right? They might not be able to objectively advise you. And sometimes you go to someone who's very close to you, and they'll just tell you, it's okay, don't worry, right? That's not how you advise someone. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe I need to tell you, wait a second, this is not just to make you feel better. Advice is not just to make someone feel better. Advice is to really give someone a recipe for change or to amend them. So again, the Prophet ﷺ, the system that he gave us is that فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. When you're confused, you have issues, try to go to people who have knowledge and experience, because they're not going to be like, oh, it's so hard. Like, even for myself, like the hardest people to deal with and to advise, even though I'm a counselor, is to counsel my family. Is the hardest. It's so hard. Like, I can counsel anyone, no problem. When it comes to my family, it's like I forget everything. I don't know how to do it. Nothing works. It's so difficult. It's so difficult. So look for, an imam, someone who's a mentor, someone who can protect your identity and this is important. How to keep energy going as a single mom. Okay. 100 plus. They have a protein one now, isn't it? New one. Like, I think because it's difficult to be a single mother. You have to take care of the kids, and most likely, she also has to play the role of a man. Probably she has to work and provide for the kids as well, right? So it's like most single mothers will have this dichotomy, this double personality. like almost like a bipolar, you know. So in one, you have to be strong and provide and this and that. Another one, you have to be soft and take care of the kids and nurturing. So like back and forth, and that's very unhealthy for women because they're not created to do that. They're created to be in their nurturing sense. Yet because of some of the circumstances, they're forced to kind of oscillate between these two extremes. So they lose their energy. It becomes very, very difficult. So first and foremost, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to strengthen you, right, in your intentions. Try to get help and support from people. You definitely try to get married. I know people don't think about like, oh, it's a solution, but it is though. Look at the Sahabiyat. Look at some of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? Husband would die, then they would get married. There was no stigma like the way it is today, right? And there was no like even arrogance in them, like I don't need a man anymore. I was married, khalas, I'm done, right? Oh, they just got married because men need women and women need men. It's just the way it is, right? So that can help. You know, try to focus on take care of your sleep. Okay, eat well, vitamins, very important. Take vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, extremely important. Like dates and black seed, very important. Read ruqya on yourself, very important again, right? Good quality sleep. Even if you sleep 6-7 hours, make sure there's no light, no light pollution, no noise pollution. Try to get it as good quality as possible. And yeah, try to arrange yourself. Like vitamins, I think are extremely important. Like we are lacking vitamins. The environment is kind of like against us. Everything is kind of like killing us. Plastic, this pollution. So vitamin C, I always recommend vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium. These are extremely important to have like always with you. It's easy. You just go to pharmacy and just get, the pills. And even like vitamin C, sometimes sadly people take like 100 milligrams, just a little pill here. No, I take about 5,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C. Sometimes when I'm like tired, 7,000, 10,000. And I know people are like, oh no, this and that. But it's very important. Like for a proper adult, yeah, you can do a 50 mils or anything like that. I think, like a good 2,000 milligrams a day of vitamin C. Be careful with the vitamin D, not so much, obviously. Yeah, magnesium. These are very important to take. One thing that I've been experimenting with a lot recently, you can do some research. It's sea moss, called Irish sea moss. Literally like algae, right? So you can buy it and you wash it and then you basically blend it into a protein. It contains almost like most of the nutrients that your body needs. There's been a lot of studies recently. You can look into it, inshallah. It doesn't taste that good, but you can actually blend it into like a shake or add some fruits or whatever. It's called Irish sea moss, and you buy it dry. You put it in water first, let it soak, wash it. You can look on YouTube how to do it, and it's really, really good for you. You'll find some huge changes in your health. Yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, I have this advisor he's a Russian sister. She's a doctor, a PhD in Japan in one of the universities, and she's like a specialist in this. So I always consult her, and she looks at the research and all that. So it's like a private consultant for me. And she always says, "You look tired in your videos. Take this, take that, do this," and she'll send me like the research papers and all that so she's like in Japan, mashallah, in one of the high universities, a PhD in nutrition and a specialist in nutrition. Irish, like Irish, yeah. C-S-E-A, Moss, M-O-S-S, I think, right? Is it? M-O-S-S. Yeah. Okay, how does one feel? Find purpose. in life, and how do you feel like you're achieving that? How do you create that purpose? Of course, يعني وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. This is standard. This is our main objective in life, to worship Allah. But it's not linked only to prayer and ibadah. And this is where I believe most of us are lost, because we're not involved in anything. Like, we're just kind of living and things. Okay, we pray, we fast, but not more than that. And especially for, like, it's a crisis in men. Men are extremely weak today because by fitra, men are purpose driven. Like, they have to chase something. And if you look at the history of humanity, right? If you look in the history of humanity, men have always chased something. Sometimes the bad things, right? That's just the way it is. Starting wars, fighting, conquering, all this, right? And Islam came to fine-tune that and to restrict those desires, right? But now men are just like doing nothing. Literally, it'll be like our greatest purpose is pretty much your job, if you have one. Right? Even that, to some people, it's a big problem. Right? So that has really destroyed and emasculated. And that's because even in our school, it only teaches you like to just get a job. That's it. That's pretty much what life pushes you on, right? If you look at the Jews, and the Jews really, really believe that they're the chosen ones. They teach their children from young that you are meant to rule the world. They instill this desire into them. As a Jew, you can go to the occupied lands for free, and they'll give you this purpose. They'll take you on a tour. They show you all the history, this and that. They take you to the Old Testament, the Torah, and the promise of God, and this and that, and really drive it into them that this is your identity and you are destined to rule the world. So you find Jews with the highest IQ. Look at the studies. Jews have some of the highest IQs in the world, the strongest education. England, wherever they are, you go to England and see how they live. Their neighborhoods are patrolled by their own police. They have their own ambulance services. They have their own schools. No one can mess with them, right? LGBTQ cannot penetrate in their communities. I mean, it'll happen here and there, but not like in the Muslim communities, like, right? Like, if you do not, like right now, if you do not accept this in some masajid in the West, they're actually thinking to revoke their charity licenses. So if a masjid is not going to accept, for example, an LGBTQ member, they can revoke that's what they're thinking to do, and they're going to push for it. You cannot do that with the Jews. The Jews will be like, we don't need your charity. What do you want? We give you charity. You understand? Right? Because there's this, they are drilled in from day one. One thing I noticed when I travel, and I travel a lot in airports, and I love to observe people. And I've done this sample population study where I look at Jews. They're never shy to pray in the airport. Like, they'll pray, like the whole shebang will be on and in front of everyone. They don't care. It's number one. Number two, in general, I've not noticed yet so far any exceptions. There might be exceptions. They don't have smartphones. They do not use smartphones. It's always one of those old flip phones, Motorola. It was so, and I keep looking for it. It was weird. On purpose, sometimes they're probably like, what is this guy staring? I'm trying to see what phone they're going to use. I'm in New York, especially in New York airports, there's a lot of them, right? Anytime in the US specifically, London, Australia, if you're in Europe, like Ukraine, that area, you find a lot of Jews in the airports passing through, going through, and so on. In Turkey, man, I always see them, they don't have smartphones. They're not sitting on the phone on their chair and, checking TikTok and stuff like that. No, they're talking to each other. They're reading the Torah. I'm talking about the practicing one, the other ones, But in general, that's what I've noticed. SubhanAllah, it was very, very interesting to see this. So, we don't have purpose. Okay? Even though Allah has given us a purpose, I don't think our Our own people are encouraging us over and over. Come on, guys. You have been selected by Allah to be the ummah, right? This is the ummah that Allah has selected for this dunya. Yes, the Jews had it before, messed it up, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? But we lost our purpose and our direction. Like, we should teach our kids from young that you are, the leaders of the world. You will lift these atrocities and these evil things from the world. You will do it. We're like, we don't want to upset anyone. I don't know if it's politically correct or this and that. The French, they teach about Napoleon. Napoleon, he was racist and he was a killer. But the French are so proud of Napoleon, isn't it? Like, proper, this is what it means. Statues and this and that and all the history, proud, even though he was a killer, right? So Americans teach about Columbus, even though he killed so many indigenous people, hundreds of thousands. And they're proud of him. And they celebrate Thanksgiving and Columbus Day and all that, right? Only the Muslims are shy. Yeah, we don't want to upset anyone. Let's be, yeah. That doesn't mean you're gonna go and kill someone. I'm not saying that. It's just you should be proud of who you are, understand your purpose. You should push to be the best person you can to give Islam. And Islam should be number one. That should be our main purpose, right? With whatever we do, Islam should be number one. Montreal, Quebec, mashallah. I visited before. I mean, I'm Canadian, but if anyone invites me, yes, I'll go, inshallah. I've been to Montreal before. Yeah, I've been to Montreal. In Quebec. Yeah, I've been to Montreal before, alhamdulillah. It's a beautiful place, mashallah. Very cold in the winter. The French side of Canada. Canada's so big though, it's like it takes you days to go through it. Like from where I live to London, Ontario, it's like 6 hours and a half or 7 hours. And from where I live to the other side of Canada, it's 6 hours. We're still in Canada. You fly 6 hours west, right? I go to Vancouver, it's basically about, like a good 6 hour flight so far. I can go to Europe in the same time. So Canada's very big. Yeah. Okay, inshallah. I think the last thing that I want to say, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, is, of course, we cannot leave without addressing what's going on today in Palestine. First and foremost, Bismillah, I want to say, it's not the deception of shaitan that people think this is a Palestinian issue. Palestine. This is an issue of the ummah. It boils my blood when I see these Palestinian activists who are saying this is a Palestinian national liberation movement, this and that. You will never win this battle like that. It cannot. This is an ummah issue. Because, and the reasons for that, and the proof for that is that Al-Aqsa is the third holiest site in the Deen. This is by Deen. You cannot visit any other masjid for the purpose of ibadah and get reward except for Mecca, Medina, Al-Aqsa. These are the three. Okay? It's part of our aqidah, part of our Deen. It's part of who we are as Muslims. Yeah, you're Malay, you're Malaysia, but you feel the pain because it's not just, it's yours. This is the Deen. This is where Prophet ﷺ ascended to the heavens. And yes, these are our brothers and our sisters. Different ethnicity, but these are our brothers in Islam and our sisters in Islam. We have to feel that this is an issue of the ummah, the Deen.
What can we do?
Yeah, very good question, right? So even dua now is like almost forbidden in some places, Like people cannot even make dua. I was talking to someone today and they said, we can't Make dua because we will end up in jail. You know, if you start saying, "Oh Allah, destroy this, the enemies of Islam," or "May Allah," and you'll get, after you finish the dua, done, finish. Imagine, like when I arrived in Malaysia, okay, it was Monday or something morning, it was right before Fajr, went to pray in Yellow Mosque, and right away the Imam was making dua against, you know, the enemies of Islam, and I was like so overtaken, you know, because I haven't heard it, right? And I wasn't even thinking about it. I wanted to pray Fajr, right? Like, look how desensitized we are, right? I was just tired, not, you know, and as soon as he made dua and kunut for the people of Palestine, right? It just hits you like, oh my God, he's making dua. Almost like, oh, what's gonna happen? How sad is that? Right? So not even, some people don't even make dua. And it shouldn't be we just make dua. Like, we should try our best to push back in you know, and on a government level, on the ummah level. Like, we're so big. We have so much. I'm telling you again, if anyone dares to do anything to the Jews again, you will see what happens. Right? They cannot. They will not accept. Did anyone ever dare to burn the Torah or the Talmud or something like that? Imagine. They cannot. They will be, or to deny the Holocaust or something like that. Imagine, there's laws that will jail you if you deny the Holocaust. And how many, 30 countries or something? You can go to jail for more than 10 years for just saying, I don't believe it existed. Okay, I believe it existed, but if you say, let's say you're entitled to your own opinion, you can go to jail. You know, imagine how strong the lobby is. Why can't the Muslims do it? Are we what? We don't have resources? What we do? We have a lot of resources. What is it? It's that we are cowards. We have a lot of cowards in this ummah, a lot of cowardish behavior. And this is the way it is. And Allah addresses this in the Quran, specifically regarding with this issue of awliya, specifically with the fear of thinking that you will, you know, these people have power over you. It is this way. So we have to keep alive at least the cause and know this is an issue of ummah. When I start hearing the ulama saying it's not your problem, you know, let the people deal with these things, it's, you know, they're trying to erase it from us. Look what's happening. Look at the position of the Muslim countries on this issue 10, 20 years ago, and look at it today. Changing so much. To the point where these people are going to now go on the other side. Know what I mean? And there will be a time where we'll forget about this who and how and where and what and so on and so forth. So this is, we have to keep the history alive. We have to keep the feelings alive. We have to keep teaching, raising awareness. For many people, their hands are tied. Okay? Like, they want to silence you. Can't even have a proper debate. Can't even have a discussion because there's some law or some regulation. Some airport will pick you up, some security will lock you down. For what? What'd you say? I thought there's freedom of expression. You can express everything you want except for what they don't want you to. Right? So at least we should keep the issue alive, teach the history, and so on. And to all those people who have the ability to do something, they have the position, the authority. I know it's not easy. I know some people say, well, they can just, it's not so easy. Being in power is not that easy. For us, maybe we can say, yeah, he should do this. It's very difficult. It's probably one of the biggest fitnas in this dunya is to be in power. As the Prophet ﷺ said, don't seek leadership. Right? There's a lot of fitna with it. Yeah, do not seek leadership. Right? It's a big fitna. But a lot of people, the ummah, we have the resources, we have the ability, but we're not able to. People don't do anything. And those who had strong positions are gone now. Right? There was. We had some leaders who, yeah, with all their mistakes, but at least they had some strong positions on this issue. At least the ummah was united on this one thing. At least the ummah was united on the issue of Palestine. And now we're split on it as well. SubhanAllah. How sad is that? You got a question? Yeah, so first of all, keep in mind, it's not about Palestinians again. The area used to be called a Sham. Okay, it's been divided in Syria, Palestine, Lebanon, and so on, parts of Turkey and whatnot, Jordan. So it used to be called the Sham, okay, Bilad al-Sham. So when they divided in these, so it was to, and they get flags and so on, it was to make divisions, to make them weaker. In our deen, it is very clear that this will be achieved through war. It will be war. I'm not gonna, play around with it. It's just war. It's gonna be war. Okay, and that's what's happening right now, and not changed for the longest time. So I'm not gonna give you some. It's war. It's gonna be war. Right? There's gonna be a great war, and after that, Isa alayhi salam will come. There'll be the Dajjal. All these things that even that's trying to be erased from our deen now. Actually, in some Muslim countries, it's being taken away from the curriculum. Yes, the books are being changed. Yes, yes, sadly, yes. You can check it by, it's for those who have lived in some of these countries, maybe like you went to school there 20, 30 years ago, and you check today the books, they're very much now trying to erase that. Okay, so yeah, it will be through war. It will be through war. Yeah.
So since we know it's gonna happen, and we just keep going on our path, it's gonna happen anyway. We know it's gonna happen.
Yeah, of course it's gonna happen. We have to keep focusing. Like the Muslims cannot just say, okay, here I am, me, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's do something, because that causes problems. You're not gonna solve anything. You're gonna cause more problems. When the Muslims went to war, they were united. Right? There was a leader who declares that. There's a judgment, there's a responsibility, there's planning, and so on. Right? It was always like that. Obviously, because of emotions, some people start doing stuff, right? So you get into like terrorism, supposedly, right? And all these like guerrilla type of tactics and groups, right? And even though people might try to justify it from a fiqh perspective, in the end, when you look at the maqasid of the deen, you'll find that it's caused a lot of problems, right? Because yes, the Muslims would go for jihad and for battles and for war. There's no doubt. I mean, this is our history, right? Just because we talk about jihad doesn't mean that we're terrorists, right? The French, when they talk about their colonial history, they say, well, this doesn't make us terrorists. We're just talking about history. Well, it doesn't matter. We killed millions of Algerians and took their heads and put them in France and in a museum. Our history, right? We're just talking about it. We're not encouraging that. So we Muslims are not saying go to war right now, but we're talking about our history. This was jihad was there, and it was amazing battles, great champions we had, right? Our Khalid bin Walid and Umar Khattab and all the great warriors of Islam were there, right? So we have to know our history and know our champions. But the Ummah was, when it came to jihad, it was always united. And there was always the hukum of a hakim, and they went to war like that, not in 2 people here, 5 people there, 10 people there, 1,000 people here. Right? Whenever the Muslims started doing these things, you see that it ended up in disaster. Right? So the Ummah was always, when they went to war, there was a call for jihad, there's rules, regulations. See, the deen is like a constitution, right? It has its constitution, its laws and everything. Yeah, and that's when the Westerns try to say, oh, you guys are jihadists and terrorists and this and that. Yeah, but like if you look at your constitution, like check the American Constitution, the British Constitution, everything has articles of war and war engagement and this and that. Every constitution will have parts. So how come we are terrorists and you're not? Because they think of religion as a pastime, right? So they think, oh, you guys have it in your religion. Yeah, but our religion is our life, is our constitution. It's like, think of the Ummah as one country basically that has laws and regulations and a constitution. The constitution, Dustur, is the Quran, Sunnah. So that's how we live. That's how it is. So you look at England, look at France, look, any country will have their laws for jihad, basically, right? So no one calls them terrorists, right? How come we are terrorists? Okay. So please keep teaching, keep raising awareness, make dua. I know there's Aman Palestine here, Palestine, right? There's organization that basically Viva Palestine. Okay, so they're working here. Anything we can do to help and support, and hopefully our governments and our people, will put some pressure because they can. They can. At least I'm not saying go to war. At least boycott. At least pull your ambassadors. At least do something. Boycott. Certain things. It's very simple, right? When Trump had problems with the French, okay, very smart. He said, okay, I will put a huge imposit on wines. And this is going to cause a huge financial blow. Obviously, people drink wine, and it's usually French wine. A'udhu billahi. So Trump was very smart. He said, okay. Macron tried to do something. He called him up and he said, okay, no problem, but I'm going to put this imposit on wine. The guy said, no, wait. Okay, cool. I'm going to pull back. You got to be the chess game. You got to be smart. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying, Khalas, start sending armies and, people can do stuff, but no one's doing it. On.
So their first third year objective.
It's a long story when it comes to Egypt. It's been happening for the longest time. Not the first time. They closed their borders a long time ago. It's Gaza, where the border is, it's the biggest man-made prison in the world, open space. And sadly, that border has been closed for a long, long time. Not now, it's been bad. Right, so, yeah. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah fikum. May Allah bless all of you. Inshallah. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.